What's it?
There is a difference between.
What's the
You're
issue?
right.
People have gone into stores and they've been challenged about bringing their animal in. They say it's a service animal, but there's no, they don't have any papers. You know.
Okay. Do we have like stores, like individual businesses aren't really our domain, right? To even discuss in this case? Just for clarification around that aspect of it.
The answer to this question is actually found in 28 Colorado revised statutes or whatever that is, section 35-136. No, that's not Colorado, that's national.
And that's what we follow at like the library and stuff like that.
Yeah. So there's actually only 2 questions that you're allowed to ask under that law, and you cannot ask any questions beyond that. So that's already covered in this in this because it's listed. So you're actually not allowed to demand certain kinds of information.
No, we're not. Yeah.
Oh.
And like even just the fact that like park-wise, those other inside of buildings, like correct me if I'm wrong, are there any buildings that would even matter under this?
Pavilion that.
Oh, the pavilion, like out. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Can you take your dog under the pavilion? I actually don't know.
Well, I assume if you're bringing the dog into the bathroom, things would get pretty hairy.
Well, I mean, like if it's, like I've done like public bathroom, like, oh, you have your dog, just like bring him in for a sec.
No, I was just making
okay.
a joke.
Yeah, like, it's pretty normal. It sounds silly, but you say it.
And really, this section is to cover people who have a service animal, not to limit them.
Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, then sure. That seems good. Thanks for the clarifying of the attention.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving down to camping, Jen had mentioned, I'm assuming we are required to have the part about space practically available part. Seems pretty vague and puts a lot of onus on the officer. I don't know, Jen, if you want to elaborate here.
What does that?
Well, I agree.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, who was talking?
That was me who wrote it. Yeah, I agree fundamentally with what you're saying there, but it was in response to the fact that these camping bans, as they were written, were found unconstitutional, that I used the language from that finding in order to try to make them constitutional.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's come up a lot with this whole overnight camping and exactly what you're talking about, what we're even allowed or not allowed to have or restrict people from doing. So it's pretty murky, but
it's tricky.
I think in general this is gonna become a pretty big problem for Ned. I think, and we've talked about that too, like that word camping. I mean, instead of sleeping, I mean, people don't understand when people are spending the night in their car, they don't really associate that as camping. And I see where it said no sleeping space is practical, but I always have an issue with the whole no overnight camping.
Like, what is the issue that you just to clarify, like, issue that it says no overnight camping?
Yeah,
no, well, be allowed, so I just clarified.
Yeah, so I like how this says, or to occupy any vehicle, trailer, or camper. But I think so. I think the problem that we have in Ned are people that are sleeping in their cars, like, and so when we keep talking about camping, people aren't associating sleeping in their car as camping.
Right.
I think that's why someone was like, I had a camper, had their RV parked at Chapter for days on end, and were just sleeping there, and there was nothing. We didn't know what to do about that.
Well, in that first line where it says unlawful to camp overnight, could you just add it is unlawful to camp or sleep overnight?
Well, she said
Well,
he
it
says to
does,
occupy any vehicle, trailer, or camper for overnight camping.
yeah, yeah, it does say that
Yeah.
at least, but
What's y'all's
yeah,
opinion? Like, what are the issues that you see around it from a PD standpoint? We get to kind of the heart of it all.
It's the practically available that's tough, isn't it? Because
yeah, I mean, anybody and everybody can come up and say practically available can mean I don't have the money to pay
Yeah.
for the fuel on the mountain because I want to be back up the mountain during the daytime, or I have a dog and the shelter won't let me bring a dog, or I
Right.
don't like that shelter. I mean, it can be anything at all.
yeah.
So would you prefer that to be removed, the practically available?
Well,
in
and Eric,
this?
you looked
Yeah.
into the
As I was
laws.
saying, it's dangerous to remove it only because they just found these sorts of like camping ban laws unconstitutional. And so what I did was I used language directly from the Supreme Court the state Supreme Court ruling in which they found it unconstitutional to qualify the ban, basically, so that it would become a constitutional camping ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I think we should, I think that the only other way, or I think what I'm trying to say is, with this, I think Nederland, the board should start considering some other things about parking that I know we've talked about before, but, you know, vehicles can only be in one place for X amount of time and they have to be moved. We get, so some of these inoperable vehicles that people are living in that, they're broken down, to fix it. And we did talk about at one point the expired registrations, and I think that was frowned upon, but it may be something you might want to reconsider, that we can, write expired registration for cars that are parked for exactly this reason. But
Would
Right.
that be helpful to the PD in that way, like for the actual issues we face, to discuss it and approach it from that perspective, the limited number of nights type of thing?
well, it's 0
24.
nights. That's what it.
Yeah.
Camping's not in the town limits of Ned right now.
Right.
Like a dusk till dawn thing.
So we did do that. We recently added signage, which helped dusk till dawn, but I think that, what Trustee Coombs was saying is true about constitutionally. There's a lot of stuff coming up now, and with case law saying that we really can't prevent people from sleeping in their cars, that homelessness is almost a protected class at this point.
Yeah.
That's what I was curious about. Is it like mostly a homeless issue that we have in that way, or is it like people coming up in vans and like choosing to stay here while traveling type of thing at the park? I don't know the extent or the type of people that are doing that, or like the situations they're in, not type of people.
Would you agree with me, Chief, that it's mostly like 98% transient, unless it's somebody who's coming through and...
Yeah, more often than not. And that those who are kind of traveling, they may stay a day or two. But more often than not, it is the homeless population, whether they're moving through or whether they're coming here to, to stay in Nederland for a week. So it's not the people that are moving through overnight that are the problem. It's the ones who stay for an extended period of time generally. So, and it is getting more and more tricky all the time. And there's less and less teeth behind what we can do, and so it's getting really difficult. And we get complaints from the citizens about this RV's been parked overnight at Chipeta Park and things like that. And there's only so much teeth we have left to enforce on some of this stuff.
On the registration thing, are you implying that you can't just write a registration ticket anyway? I mean, isn't that a standard thing?
We can't write it on a parked vehicle. No, it has to be a vehicle on the roadway.
Oh.
can we do to
So even if it's like
help
parked
the
on
police department?
parked on a roadway, that you can't really address that, huh?
It has to be occupied.
Gotcha.
And this is focused strictly on parks and open spaces. It has nothing to do with, okay, I have a friend who I let them sleep in their van on my property while they were visiting. This has nothing to do with that, correct?
I hope not.
That's correct.
Otherwise, you'd have a lot of tickets to ride at my house with friends staying in vans.
Yeah, I mean, that's personal it's a personal property
I think-
issue, I think.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
so-
I think the town code actually addresses that as well. Then I don't think that's I don't think it's legal per our town code. Uh, but again, if you know whoever just spoke of, I have a friend staying the night. You know, those are not the issues. It's the
Right.
people who allow people to live out of their RV or their camper
Oh,
or their
yeah,
car on their
Yeah.
property, you know, for all summer long or for 3 or 4 weeks or whatever.
yeah.
That's
Right.
that's where we're getting problems. And you know, like I can tell you right now, there's an RV parked in next door to the mine shaft that has electricity running to it. Or it's not an RV; it's a pickup truck with a camper, which
Gotcha.
tells me they're living out of it, right? So
Yeah,
clearly,
yeah.
you know, I don't think we want to have that on a regular basis.
Yeah, but see,
Uh,
that brings up another issue, because it used to be that there were quite a few people who worked in Nederland and they couldn't afford places to live, or there weren't any places to live. And these were regular workers. And so they would live in their vehicles, oftentimes close to where they worked, or if not in the national forest. I don't know how much of that still goes on, but that's another class of people.
I mean,
it
this is
still
getting
goes
kind
on
of-
for sure.
and it is getting
Yeah.
kind of beyond our scope at parks here. So let's just jump
Yeah.
in. We
Yeah.
gotta finish this meeting tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. What can we do to help?
So,
What
I
would
mean,
be
I guess
helpful
I
to-
just wanted, Jen, do you feel like this just comes out, given kind of what's happening federally speaking? And I know
Yeah.
it's vague, but that we just leave it as is.
I think you should leave it as is. I mean, I think it was put there with a lot of thought, and I understand why it was put in there. I'm just letting everybody know that, you know, when these calls start coming in to the PD, that these people are here, we're not going to be able to send them anywhere.
And the fires associated with them are a real
So
problem.
would I mean a time limit thing? That would be one practical thing that we could maybe do is add a 24-hour
Well-
limit or something.
I mean, like some municipalities have, you know, we have our 2-hour parking or whatever, but I think that it's possible that's overcomplicating it. I mean, if we have reason to believe that they're living or
Living.
camping or sleeping
Yeah.
there, then we can contact them anyway. The question is, really what it boils down to is we're not really going to be able to make them leave.
Yeah.
Because we can't do anything about it anyways, huh? Other than
I mean, yeah, I mean, basically the way it's written is if somebody's sleeping in their vehicle in Chipeta Park's parking lot and one of our PD goes up there and says, hey, you can't sleep here. If that person retorts basically and says, I have nowhere else to go, there's basically nothing that our officers will be able to do about it.
And just so you know, Chief, if you don't agree with me, please say, but that's literally the first words out of everybody's mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't have anywhere else to go.
I mean,
Yeah, but you know, if there is people who are kind of more recreational type campers and big fancy RVs who are pulling up into Chipeta to crash there for the night or something, I'm not sure they would be able to hold up that same argument, but so at least in that circumstance you could say, hey, this is not a RV campground, you can't park here and set up here, and they might just leave.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's something we have to look into then.
Yeah, leave this as is for the time being.
Yeah, I think this is far beyond even the town of Nederland to address.
Yeah.
but something that's going to be a part of the Parks Board again and again moving forward.
Absolutely.
It's not something that we can just ignore and leave unaddressed. We are going to have to really dig into it.
But we also don't have the rights to supersede Constitution.
We certainly don't. It's all kinds of tricky. I would never not acknowledge
Well,
the
what this
complication
does
of it,
though
but
is by putting this in there, at least there is some
Something.
description of what is unlawful rather than how it is now, where there's really none.
Okay.
Okay, so under
I think
fire,
technically, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
sorry, you ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under fire, I think this came from you, Jen. Have we considered saying that we will mimic Boulder County Sheriff Office fire ban without needing to enact our own? I think that came from you, Jen.
Yeah, that came from me.
I think it's valid to just add in here that when the sheriff's office
Makes sense.
institutes a fire ban, that we are following right in suit.
I thought that was already our policy.
I think Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, Larry needs to declare as the marshal that we too are adhering to this fire ban.
Well, so couple of things on the fire ban. Generally, when they enact their fire ban, like stage 1, it's in unincorporated areas, or it's on public land, Forest Service, parks, things like that, where they don't regulate it against private property in stage 1. When they move to stage 2, then they do generally, and then it jumps over to, no fires on private property. So that's generally when we jump on board with it. So, if you have a fire pit at your house and we're in stage 1, like right now, unless it's a red flag day, a little different, but right now we're in stage 1, you can't, or you could have a campfire tonight at your house. But if we go to stage 2, you wouldn't be able to. So there's nothing really wrong with the language here. I just think people need to understand like what that looks like and when we make that change and why we make that change. It's if we're going to follow Boulder County's, which I think makes most sense because it's just easiest for everybody to follow.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yep. Yeah, if this is the appropriate, Miranda, could you put a note there just to ask legal if this is the appropriate place to put such a provision?
Yeah.
Because there might be a higher level place in town code where that should go.
Yep.
Good. All right. Vehicles. When we talk about vehicles, Larry had asked what about frozen decade days or really any event when they run their golf carts on the park. If we add that to no person shall operate, do we include golf carts in that list?
Could we?
I mean, it says unless the area is, something about permit.
Yeah. So Miranda, if we could say, I have that language somewhere else in here as well, like except by people who are operating on the conditions of a lease, right? Because then Frozen Dead Guy would have a lease that permits them to do that.
Jennifer wants us to call them license agreements.
Right.
Sure.
Sorry, if this wasn't on the agenda, but the electric assisted bicycles, that's becoming an increasingly fuzzy line with bikes. Seems a little broad.
Yeah, even the national parks that start off with no electric assists are now electric assist is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be perfectly happy with removing electric assisted bicycle from that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with sticking with gas. They smell and they're loud, but the electric assist, that's...
Yeah, I mean, that just get more people out enjoying open spaces, so it's great.
Yeah, and in 5 years we probably can't buy a bike that doesn't have electric assist.
Right, exactly.
A lot of elderly folks find that
That
lets
came
them
that
bike
was
spaces,
carry.
so.
I mean, a lot of this is all carryover from Boulder County.
What's the difference between an electric scooter, low-powered scooter, and an electric assisted bike?
Yeah, good question.
Electric assisted bike is you have to pedal,
Right.
and then you get some power, so you're still kind of biking. And Whereas like an electric bike is when there's no human intervention. You're just gunning it and driving around like
Throttle.
it's a motorcycle.
Yeah, and you can
Oh,
just zoom
okay.
around at high speed.
Segways would still be good. Electric skateboards would still be good.
There's going to be more and more of them. We might as well kind of accept
I
it.
think what we're trying to do here is just like smelly gas, like powered vehicles and open spaces
Yeah.
and stuff like that is what we're trying to avoid, right? So like,
Agreed.
Well, and to also avoid like pedestrians getting hit by something moving very quickly that could be very dangerous in a crowded park.
Yeah.
for sure, maybe people could just be respectful.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Second it.
Respectful, add that into code.
Is I mean,
Rolling, assuming no one has any major issues, because I know marijuana and legal or liquor were pieces
Yeah,
for the
so-
same.
So when it came to the marijuana and the alcohol, the thing that was freaking me out about trying to write something about it was when we have festivals like Frozen Dead Guy Days. You're allowed to drink on the park, and I didn't want to make it illegal to do that. So what I put it there would say that it is legal unless it goes against other regulations or state law, so that we didn't have to do it. That was the only reason why it's phrased this way. But I'm sure legal can do it better.
I think Jen mentioned, like, and Larry maybe a little bit too, that kind of the way this reads, and if people don't want to read past the first sentences.
Sure.
That first line, you're like, cool, it's permitted because you don't
Yeah,
read
that's fair enough. I just was trying to figure out an elegant way to not have to write 300,000 words to explain
Yeah.
the situations in which it's legal. But I'm sure that a lawyer could do a much better job than me at this.
a little legal assistance here.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Larry and Jen, do you have anything to add about kind of the marijuana and liquor besides understanding what Eric's aiming for and getting legal buy-in on rewriting?
Nope, I think it's spot on. It just needs some rewording there.
Okay. We know people don't like to read, so they'll be like,
Yeah.
sentences in, cool.
5 bullet points. That's it.
They're like, I can do it. Okay, so we'll get a little legal rewrite there. I don't recall us having too much more as we had it. Oh, other prohibited activities. Larry, you have, so no one can fly a drone, a car, an RC car. Can you clarify what you're saying here under other prohibited activities?
Yeah, that would be a remote control car.
Okay.
And I mean, we were just talking about all these other electric things that are coming our way. Well, drones is one of them. And I mean, obviously it is up to the town, but I think it's a little too restrictive. It is a public location, and I don't see why people couldn't fly a drone for
yeah, that
their
seems
own
fine if it's not causing
entertainment.
issues.
Yeah,
And drones
you're
already
right.
have their
Of
own
course.
like legal stuff around them with airspace to begin
Yeah,
with
they sure do.
to stop the like issues that are actually associated with them.
In fact, they
And I just know that because my
a little
brother has a
confusing because
drone
there's
license.
drones later in this that is more specific. So yeah, it's weird that it's also up here in A. Should probably be ditched.
Okay.
I don't see, am I missing it? The use, I'm missing, I don't see A. I mean, I just took it out.
It was the use of remote controlled land, water, or airborne devices. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, ditch that.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't
And
say
why
drone,
don't,
so
like-
I didn't notice it as a drone. Yeah.
As far as like the
Escape.
hang gliding, paragliding, and that stuff, just in as we do that, like there are places in Boulder where you can do that in parks. So I'm just curious why we say no here.
Off-road rollerblades.
I think the concern is weather here.
A mountain skateboard.
What's that?
More
The weather? Do we feel like that's up to the user to make the decision on?
Yeah, I
Well,
feel
we
like
had
someone should be able to use a
balloon
mountain
recently,
skateboard.
Sam, but the agreement was
What's that? Sorry.
they could inflate like their hot air balloon recently, but they weren't allowed to take off because of the wind and the concerns there. And so I think you'd have maybe some similar things, paragliding, parachuting, but I don't know, Jen, Larry, parasailing. I just think our
Mountains.
climate is a little more aggressive and That's it.
Dylan.
I don't know
That
that we have a
seems
spot that's
restrictive.
conducive. I
Yeah,
think it's,
maybe.
So,
I think
Yeah,
it'll
bold
fix
Yeah.
move.
itself.
Yeah.
but
Well, it kind of
I
goes
mean,
back to what you're saying,
pretty-
Sam. We haven't had a bunch of people launching paragliders here, so.
Yeah, just delete it. This is the kitchen sink.
yeah, I mean, it seems like, like it's, if there's a good,
And
ends
the
up being a good
mountain
space for it,
skateboards,
it's
too.
safe. And yeah, mountain skateboards seem fine.
I don't know what a
Off-road
e-bike
rollerblades
is.
fine, right?
Probably
Ski
fine.
bike.
Off
You
I've
would
never
just be able
heard
to
of
do
half of
stuff in
these
the,
things.
delete it all,
Seems to be-
Miranda. Just
Are we just taking
Yeah.
it out? Did I just get rid of all of this?
no. We don't
I
want
think
polluting
so.
land, water, or air, and we don't want anybody
Yeah.
golfing, for Christ's sake.
Okay.
Golfing. Golfing.
Really though, it's like,
What about frisbee
Yeah.
golfing? It's too broad. We have to rewrite it.
it just seems
Frisbee
unnecessarily
golfing is
restrictive
perfectly
to me.
permissible.
It's kind of like, it makes me think of like the little joke things about laws. Like, did you know there's a law where you can't put an ice cream cone in your left back pocket on Sunday? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
it feels like that to me. And
Oh yeah, delete it.
Put that in.
so
Anything else I'm deleting here?
Yeah, delete off-road rollerblades, delete mountain
all
skateboards,
that.
Okay.
delete golfing.
Delete golfing. Okay.
I
And
wasn't
just
serious.
polluting water,
Just golfing.
land, and
You
air.
just can't golf.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Okay.
we don't want people polluting land, water, air. But outside of that, it's like, have fun and enjoy yourself.
Okay, but you'll need to clarify polluting.
What would you
Definition
recommend,
of
Natasha?
polluting.
No, that's fine. We get to define that.
We'll let the opposite.
PD could do that, yeah.
Jen and Larry, do you need a definition of polluting, or is there kind of standard definition?
I don't need one.
Okay. All right.
Like, to me, these things, like, the only reason to prohibit an activity is it
Safety.
impacts the ecology or the wildlife or other people's safety. If
Yeah.
someone wants to go hurt themselves, like, you can do that on a skateboard, like you can do that on a mountain bike. You want to go hurt yourself, like, that's your choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
We don't need extra laws. Reckless endangerment is reckless endangerment. If someone does something really crazy
exactly.
that puts people at risk, that's
Indeed.
against the
falls
law.
under that.
you know?
Otherwise, let people be creative as
We
long as
don't
they're
have
not
to say,
damaging things.
I'm sorry, you were on the wrong type of wheeled device. It's like, no, if you're acting crazy, that's not
You're
great.
right, and I think that's important. Not, I like feel strongly about that.
Hey Miranda, can you go back up to that section?
Sorry. Yes.
Because there are other things that we might want to delete out of here.
Yeah.
First of all, we'd want to delete the rest of that sentence.
Yeah, and similar devices, etc.
blah, 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 blah. Just delete all that. Yeah. What about operating motorized or non-motorized aircraft?
I like the permission. I go back to that hot air balloon.
Permission.
I'm so glad that they came and asked us for permission before they even blew it up. Even though they weren't going to fly it, they came and got a permission from town.
So this is where drones would fall under?
No,
I would-
drones are going to be later.
Are they going to be later? Okay.
Is there an ecological impact for these, or like a social safety impact that's like that we feel is legitimate or reckless, or like, is there aircraft laws around aircrafts already that exist? I don't know.
Right.
That's
the thing. Do we need to? Can we ask that question of legal as well?
Yeah, because if not, like,
reason
take it
why we
out.
need to do this?
It's
Will you reframe the question? Sorry, what's the question?
Well, because it is possible, Sam, that that there are laws about it that don't apply to municipalities. Right?
Okay, sure.
So
And that's
it's
that's
possible
valid.
that we need it, but it's also possible that we don't. So I would like to just ask legal: do we even need this? Is this covered in some other law?
Yeah.
This B.
I'm just kind of like against,
Yes.
or not against, but like sort of fundamentally thinking like, if you don't need a law, don't make a law.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mhm.
And like, don't limit people's creativity because we can't be creative about it, or something like that if it's not impacting others' safety in the ecosystem and wildlife.
That being said, paragliding anywhere on our parks is a really bad idea. But
it's a choice.
it is a choice.
Yeah.
It is a choice.
And it's also quite a popular mountain sport, and it's It's so I think it's sort of just silly to say no.
Okay, I'll ask her. And then I think too here with D, I do agree on the drone. We have had drone footage of our cemetery, and again, those people came forward for permission flying the aircraft, and we notified PD and all the respective parties of them doing so.
So it basically just simply requires that flying a drone, or it's not flying a drone, it is taking off, landing, or operating a drone on town property. So from your own house, you can fly a drone as much as you want, all around town, right? It's just where you're operating it, where you're taking off, and where you're landing. It's covered here.
Who's an authorized official?
Permission is
Authorized
good for
official is
that.
defined at the top of the document.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's the town administrator or the, we're gonna have to change that because there's not going to be a public works manager, so I have to change that one.
So I think there's only two more here. In enforcement, Larry had just added code enforcement, which I do agree is appropriate, and that's safe built for town. Assuming there's no significant. The other piece just Larry had recommended that in addition to reviewing this by legal, let's have Judge Thrower take a look at the penalties.
Yeah, these are completely random. I'm not standing by any of this. This just comes from Boulder County. So I think we should look at those if we can, look at the amounts.
Yeah.
And, if people have ideas.
Okay.
So I think once legal takes a look, then we'll have Judge Thrower take a peek.
But this is not like what I want it to cost. This is literally just Boulder County's fee structure.
Okay.
I think that's it. You did it. Thanks, Larry and Jen. I think we'll then take it to legal and we'll go from there. But
All right, you're welcome.
Larry and Jen, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Cool. So we'll review by legal, then bring it back to you at your January PROSAB meeting.
Man, you guys should have seen some of the laws that they had in there. That I deleted so much from.
That's good. I think that's really important,
Yeah.
just to not create an unnecessarily restrictive environment. It's just silly.
And I would also recommend going through it again. I didn't create it as as something that I wanted to pass. I made it as something that we could edit down to what we needed it to be.
Appreciate the effort.
That was great. Thanks, Eric. So yeah, well, and if I get a chance, if assuming Jennifer, I'm sure she can review it before the next PROSAB, I'll try to run it by Judge Thrower as well. Okay. I don't know what's next on the agenda, Jesse, where you're going next.
Let's see. Did we do the parks manager job description?
No, but I'd love to do that. Sent you the parks manager job description. Would love your feedback. Assuming there's no any significant changes, we were aiming to post it tomorrow. Applications would then be due. We're going to do kind of a 3-week turnaround because we are aware of quite a few applicants who are interested. The goal of having the person in place in February, but yeah, would love your thoughts on that job description. Do you need me to pull it up? I gotta go find it, but I can. Okay, let me pull it up here. Maybe. Here we go. Okay. So I wasn't necessarily gonna read it to you or anything. We try to structure job duties based on kind of priority. However, that's not necessarily the case. Please know that a lot of things in here are interchangeable. person reports to me. They'll then oversee parks lead, maintenance technicians, and the temporary workers. One thing that I know I've gone back and forth with Public Works about a few times is the requirement for a CDL. I do strongly believe in that. I feel it's important for the person to be able to swap in and out with the other departments, and public manager needs to be able to drive a dump truck, and that's going to require a CDL. So I do feel that that's an important piece here, but ran this by Char and Chris Pelletier, and this is kind of the final document we laid out. But anyone have any comments, questions, concerns, additions, changes?
It seems fine.
Wait a second. Scroll down.
Looks good.
Yeah, scroll down, please.
One thing, Miranda, is at the very, very top of the description, it says grant management and administrative duties. And then later on in the document, it says identify and like pursue revenue sources. So that suggests grant writing. So maybe it should say administrative duties, including grant writing and management.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Other changes?
Sees the finances for the department. Is that defined earlier in the document?
Not really. So, and it gets a little tricky because Parks is not its own department yet.
Yeah.
It will be, but it's really to oversee then the finances of Public Works, and that would be in collaboration with the streets manager.
Okay.
Okay.
So I do want to leave that a little ambiguous like that, because as we move into a true Parks department, we then don't have to adjust the job description.
Yeah.
It's a job posting too, not yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this looks great.
Cool. If there's no other changes, then besides this one, we'll get this out tomorrow.
Can you scroll down, please?
So Natasha, this is a 4-page document. So I guess if you
okay. Okay.
it makes sense for me to just email it to you and for you to look it over. Although it's really up to PROSAB to make the changes. So
yeah. I just hadn't seen it before.
I'll send it to you. So you can, I just don't want to take everyone's time. I'll send it to you. I think the one question I had in kind of that recruitment aim for you all was which PROSAB member wanted to serve on the hiring committee. The preference is to only have 2, so I don't have a sunshine law issue. Who's interested?
Happy to.
Who's interested? Anyone else?
I mean, I can if anyone else is not able, for sure. Happy to.
Okay. So what this would be though is that CT and Sam would be the ones involved in reviewing applications, interviewing and selecting, and that person is likely not going to come before PROSAB until hired, because it is an administrative position, unless there's any concerns with that. But I do think, unlike the BOT, who has the authority to appoint, PROSAB does not have that authority as a board as a whole.
So
yeah, I'd throw my name in the hat too. I'd be happy to help out in whatever way.
I'd love to not have 3 because I don't want to have to be publicly noticing interviews. So if we can cut this down to 2, y'all can vote however you want to do that. But I do think in the interest of the applicant, publicly noticing interviews is tough.
Jessica, you got seniority. If you'd prefer to take the spot, I'm happy to step down.
I was going to say, if Jesse's willing to do it, I think it would be really great for Jesse to do it, just because this is someone.
Just because I feel like I got the background of like the last few
But
years.
not,
of what-
not only
Yeah.
that, but the chair of PROSAB is probably going to work with this particular staff member quite closely.
But maybe like
I
if
completely
Sam,
understand.
if whoever would, if I could designate somebody to do the Ned rinks and tennis, any further meetings with those guys, like that would be one thing that I would be quite happy to delegate the meetings with some of the other nonprofit boards.
I mean, I'm happy to jump in there in that if you want to, like, that way you don't have to have so much, you know?
We'll spread out the love.
I live pretty close to the rink guys too. If I could be helpful.
Well, yeah, I know less about that.
Who's our interview and who's our rink tennis group? Jesse's on interview. Is there anyone else joining Jesse for interview, or CT and Sam gonna take over rink tennis negotiation?
Sign me up for rink tennis since we're going to be doing stuff kind of with the bike park potentially around that.
Yeah, that
space.
makes sense.
CT, do you want to do both, one or the other? What are you thinking?
I prefer to be on the hiring, but if just Jessica, if you feel it'd be more streamlined to
Good.
pick
Yeah,
it up
maybe
yourself.
myself and CT for the hiring committee, and keep Eric and Sam for rink and tennis.
Is Eric still good to be on rink and tennis? Okay, good.
Thanks, Eric.
I just do what I need to do.
I love it.
Eric and I are going to play doubles tennis on the ice rink in ice skates.
I dig
Yeah.
that.
That is your prerogative.
Recording. We
What's
need
that?
a video.
I'm ready for that, Sam. I'm very ready.
Thank you.
Hold me to it.
We'd like to live stream that, so just let us know where
Okay.
to be and we'll put it on.
Let's live stream it to Ned Heads. How about that?
I love that.
Oh, no, it can go to the town website, but it cannot go to NetHead.
Options. Okay, so when we are getting ready, then CT and Jesse will send out doodle polls to secure dates and times for all the different pieces. So that's the biggest thing I ask of interview committees, is just be very quick in responding to doodle polls.
Yeah.
So we can try to land on dates as fast as possible, since there's so many different parties involved here. So cool. Well, we'll get that posted tomorrow, and I'm excited to see who applies.
Awesome. Thank you. Yay, great. That's really, really cool.
Just like a quick note, Eric, if you've been involved with the ice and tennis rink stuff, you'll just have to kind of help me bring me up to speed, but I'm getting up to speed quick, I think.
Sure thing. It's nothing too complicated. It's just to
Okay,
get
cool.
on top.
They got it. They're on it.
Sweet.
Okay, I mean, I have no updates on the asset list, so we can scratch that one, except for I've just emailed you the link to the map for you to check out what we've got going on there so far. Otherwise, do you want to do the Frozen Dead Guy Days lease agreement?
I sent an email to you all. We don't have that. And so we
Okay.
don't have that because we're still working on the negotiations of the police department plan. And until we get that lined out, what that staffing plan will look like, we won't have it. But in the sake of time, I need to get a lease before Frozen Dead Guy Days by January 4th. So definitely before your next meeting, obviously. So I'd love maybe yet another team to be designated, 2 of you, to take a look at the lease on behalf of the group as a whole, because I can't afford to wait until the end of January to get a license agreement in place. It's just cutting it too tight to their event.
Yeah.
So are there 2 members who would like to be involved in the review and negotiation of the license agreement?
Yeah, you can put me in for that.
All right. Anyone else? You can always be 2. Anyone
Yeah, I
else?
think this is definitely a 2-person situation. It's a high visibility item.
I'm gonna be
It'll go
traveling.
for Eric, no matter what, so Eric can count himself out because it'll go before the board of trustees.
I'm
But
gonna be
What's it?
traveling next week. This
mean,
needs to be done. This review needs to be done before the 4th of January.
yeah, so it's highly unlikely we'll have it done next week. I think we'd be looking at that week of the 27th, trying to squeeze something in Monday through Wednesday that week to all sit down and take a look at that lease agreement.
Well, I mean, you're going to be able to send it out ahead of time, so we review
yeah.
it first.
Yeah, and if for some reason you couldn't go, I'd at least just like to know that PROSAB, at least 2 designated members of PROSAB, have weighed in on the lease agreement.
John, I can review it with you. Like it's not that much in the net and ice rink. It's just like kind of a one-time sort of thing. So,
Cool.
you know, I've got my other stuff like rolling, so I'm pretty psyched about what's happening with the other things. So,
Cool.
Okay,
and
Sam.
the meeting minutes are being taken currently, so it's easy. I'm not driving during this meeting, so
I forgot to record at the start of the meeting. I don't know where my head was at. So
that's okay.
I took minutes for the beginning and I recorded like halfway through.
Yeah, you were. We got all the important.
There's something about advisory boards and commissions. I am like notorious for not like remembering to record. So sorry, but we have a half minute actually.
No,
and then Sam's written minutes will get the rest. Okay.
Yeah,
John,
I got it all.
Thank you, Sam. Keep you posted
Cool.
on the license agreement. Ultimately, you know, that's going to be heavily negotiated between admin and the event organizers, but since there was so much back and forth with the use of Gershio, I think it'll be important to put your eyes.
Yeah, and I was there for that meeting, so I'm like kind of up to speed on that aspect of it. Miranda, so should we wait for you to send us something and then John and I can schedule a time to review it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably have something sent out next week, but we won't then set the meeting with the event organizers until the following. And again, I'm on Doodle.
John, I'll just follow up with you.
Just look out for your Doodle poll. I'm all about them. And so sign up once I.
What's that?
A Doodle poll. I'll do a Doodle poll too for that meeting. And so I always ask for kind of quick response whenever I send those out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there is nothing else on that, I don't think we have any updates on the trail survey. Speak now if there's any updates. Otherwise, we'll just push that to next meeting.
Is there anything that?
Next meeting.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good because Brian is like spearheading a lot of that, so and he's not here. So.
Okay. I'd really like to be a part of that moving forward. I'm very interested.
All right, put you on it. You and Brian are on it.
Yeah, it might get done faster, CT, if you and Brian kind of take that on rather than me.
Yeah,
sure.
That's all. If it's all right with you, CT, that would be fab.
I'd like to be as involved in the trail systems as I can be.
Sweet.
To wit, I reached out to an organization called the Nederland Area Trail Organization.
Yeah, NATO.
Yeah.
NATO. I reached out to NATO.
They're a good resource.
I was just wondering if the board has coordinated with them before, or if we have like resources in place. Like, does anyone know? NATO?
Yes, the board has worked with them many times in the past, not within the last couple of years.
Okay.
But they are one of the organizations that was part of Brian and I's plan for next steps involving public process for the Trails Master Plan. So we kind of left that off at, we have done a survey, we have the findings of that survey, and the next step is to go to constituent and stakeholder organizations relating to trails as broadly as possible. That includes, people like NATO and anyone else doing, recreational activities on trails, but also Nederland area seniors, maybe going to,
I think one of the concerns with NATO is just they're very bike oriented, so we just want to make sure it's weighted equally between all kind of interests.
Okay. All right.
And then maybe getting some feedback from those organizations, including that with the survey feedback, taking all that information and bringing it to public forum and moving from there.
Is that survey available someplace, Eric?
It's
Brian has got the results
around in emails. Somebody probably can get it faster than I can.
Yeah, I've got the results. I can send that to you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Speaking of that, do you want to do a little bike park breakdown for us, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty straightforward where we're at now. I've met with Jesse Sievers, who, hold on, my AirPod's gonna die. Let me just switch. Hold on a second. And he runs High Performance Earthworks. He just citizen, like he lives in town, and he's passionate about biking, and he is super excited to donate $20,000 of in-kind work, like actually paying his guys to help build bike trails and specifically bike park, downhill oriented, and like stuff that a pump track, so it fits all levels. Like you could be brand new to bikes and enjoy it, or you could be pretty hardcore and enjoy it, so it creates a cool culture. And he's also offered to do the maintenance for the first 3 years, up to around like $5,000 in kind, roughly, he said. And he started to put it in writing and sent it over to me, which is great. And he's also excited about it. We went and drove around and looked at some different options of town land to get some ideas that we'd all discussed. And he also will restore all of it if everybody hates it. Is what he's offering to do. So in case everybody decides that they hate bikes and the bike park, he said, I'll put it back and I'll do the short of full revegetation. He'll clear the trails out. And so the next step is to identify some potential trail paths, and then that way we can put it on a map and then start kind of the public process of actually showing it. And then Miranda's been amazingly helpful in just answering little questions around like are we covered from an insurance perspective, all the little things that when we bring it public people are going to ask. So we're still rapidly trying to move through the admin, what I'll call kind of the admin phase of understanding what's possible, who's excited. And so since he was willing to invest such a big thing in it, I've focused on meeting with him, and then from that it's an opportunity to like get the public input, get other people excited about it, and of course go through all the public component of it. And I also talked to the folks at Tin Shed. They said we could have a meeting there and at Saltos to talk about it and have everybody to look at maps, and since that's kind of a community hub for biking. And so that is where we are at with that.
So that's a really good idea to meet, at the Tin Shed. I like that. And then
Yeah.
with all these contributions, is there anticipated other costs, or is this saying that we don't anticipate other costs that the town's going to come
Yeah,
up
so at
with?
the moment we're getting pretty close to not having to deal with other costs. And one of the things Jesse and I have been working with, just discussing, Jesse Sievers to be, because I just not to confuse it, is that I talked with him about like their capacity to design a bike park, because they're like excavation. He's a mountain biker and everybody on his crew is. But he was thinking through that and he was going to get back to me. And then I was going to look at what our options are there. And part of the thing is like potentially this Saturday, I'm going to go for like an hour. We're going to go like ride some of that section of town land and just see what kind of features would we be even thinking about. And having personally just like ridden a bunch of different bike parks, I have a sense of what's possible. And so after that, then we'll see. The only thing that I would anticipate there is that we potentially would need a design component. But the nice thing about that they do excavation and they do earthwork is that like from an erosion and environmental standpoint, they're tuned into that stuff, which is really, really great and important, for the sustainability aspect of it. And the dirt, like what dirt we would want. And apparently he had talked with Chris in town, who's resigning. Is that correct, Miranda?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes.
he knows Chris really well because he does a lot of jobs where they have to deal with town stuff anyways. And so he had already had a discussion prior to our meeting in PROSAB, and Chris, apparently there's some, and I need to clarify this, so don't hold me to this one until I clarify it, but that there's some maybe some dirt available. Miranda, does that sound right? That is like the good stuff, because we have a lot of rock and shale or just rocky stuff, and so it doesn't hold up very well. But if we can get there's a particular type of dirt, I don't remember the name of it, but it's good for jumps and it lasts, and it's good for trails and stuff like that. And then the other thing,
Gray Breeze?
actually, what's that?
The dirt. It's called Gray Breeze, right?
No.
Is that what it is?
No, I mean, we just have dirt. We have dirt piles at our public works shop.
Some like,
that-
yeah, like some dirt grade that just does well for trails. I don't know the details of it
It has not been
exactly.
pulled together by the breeze, but yeah, no, we have it from, and even from Barker Meadow Parks as we continue to dig
Yeah.
up the amphitheater, the dirt just then gets moved to our public works shop. So we have dirt and rocks galore.
So my goal by the next meeting is that I have like a map. I'm just gonna go, we're gonna go ride these things where we have the
Mhm.
map of public lands, and some of these could connect kind of cool. But to line out and go like, here's where it could be, here's some of the trails. Because as we went, there's like some already existing trail networks as well that are being used kind of for downhill oriented trails. And the idea, and it's contentious, and NATO like will push back on this all day long as they should, is taking trails, like it's better to add than delete trails and then remake them. So it's better to add new trails. Because if people are riding, a lot of the trails that have become established Forest Service trails around here, or like a sanctioned trail, they started as secret trails, and then so we don't want that, like that's sort of something that's part of the community, and we don't want to take that away. We want to add to what's existing. That's my update. Any questions? I'm here.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Before you know it, we're gonna have like the Red Bull Rampage here, People are gonna be jumping off everything. Yeah, and then like every toddler's gonna know how to ride a bike park.
I know I have a few contacts. I haven't done it yet. I need to email you. I have some teenagers that are part of the Netherlands area high
Cool.
school mountain biking team, and I'm going to send you their contact information.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think like the whole tin shed rallying point. I mean, I chatted with Brian over there, and he's psyched, And I know the guys over there just personally because they work on my bike and stuff. And he's like, yeah, we can build some tabletops. Like we can organize trail days. We would love that. So far, it's been positive feedback. When we get it out fully into the public, I'm sure we'll get some negative, stuff, but we'll deal with that when we get there.
I put a couple of flyers up too. I'm putting a few of those little flyers up with
Cool.
your email on, Sam, and so people can hopefully see them and contact you.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Thank you. So, but the point is like, once we get that part, then like really make it an excited thing in the community that's happening.
So by next meeting, where do you think we'll be? Do you think we'll be ready to start like the public?
I do think so. Because what I'll have is like, here's where we've identified there could be trails and the type of trails, and then where the pump track would go, and like ideally, which I think that one, and like Jesse Sievers, he's kind of been really helpful.
Yeah. Awesome.
And he had talked to Chris, and he was like, yeah, I think naturally the spot to put the pump track is right outside of the parking for the ice and tennis rink. Because that's, like that's an easy spot for like if someone's riding it or little kids are riding it to park and like ride the pump track. You don't have to ride to it, which makes a lot of sense. And pump tracks.
That may be the spot that the Ned rink and tennis people don't want it to be.
Okay, we'll adjust. There's honestly so much town land that is sort of just would kind of make sense for it, that there's plenty of options.
I think the one thing Chris and I were talking about some parcels the other day, Sam, we were looking at the zoning map, is we want to be really careful that we're not taking parcels that could be viable for affordable housing or some sort of
right. That was going to be the other question. I was going to bring that up, and then I think that was the discussion to have, because I looked at the map. Like I think either Jesse put a map together, and I think he had maybe looked at parcels, maybe with Chris. I don't know for sure, or maybe with you. And it was like, okay, these are all parcels that are currently nothing's happening with. Let's go look at them. But when I looked at it, I was like, yep, it looks kind of big, So it's like, I'm sure there'll be some thought there. And one of the things I was doing in my head is like, well, what are the other things town might want to use this for? So I'll put together like the wild option, like what would the coolest thing in the world be focused on a bike park? And then we can adjust from there if it makes sense to trim it down. So I was going to if that works, we'll go that direction.
Okay.
I think when we were like, and so I will send you a link. We're working on a new zoning map, Sam, that has the right colors.
Okay.
You and I are looking together. I was like, these
Yeah,
are
yeah.
colors. I've got a new
Yeah.
one, so I'll kick it your way. Yeah, I think, you know, as you're looking at, let me just kind of pull this up. As you're looking at large
Yeah.
parcels here, like here, if it was like this one, yes, it's heavily forested, but it's like, this is a very large chunk of property town owns that could be
Yeah.
used for other purposes. So I think we need to be very careful that, like, whether Rink and Tennis wants it or not, this is not really developable parcel when it comes to a building, but this
Right.
is.
Yeah.
And so, like, what meets zone, what meets yard and bulk requirements, like, you know, and taking
Right.
a look at where what's developable from a true building standpoint and what's not.
Yeah. And that's I figured was going to be an important part of it. So I'm gonna put a wild plan together, and then we can trim it down from there.
Okay.
With
Cool.
options.
I'll kick this over to you. This is really in draft mode, so I'm not going to share it too far. But
okay, I'll just keep it for myself to know.
Don't share it widely. We'll get ready to give it
for
adoption, but we're not ready yet.
All right, cool.
Quick question: are we about to wrap up? Because I gotta run here, and I just wanted to say one word.
The most important things that we need to touch base on here, because I mean,
our installation is very important.
I think so. Yeah, there's no really egress updates. There's Bobcat Ridge. Can that wait till next time?
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not moving at the moment.
Okay. And then do we need a decision on the installation?
No, I guess I just need to know, like, if we're not going to use Jason, like, we should let him know sooner than later.
Yeah.
So
goodbye. I'm signing out. I just want to say thank you. It's encouraging to see that PROSAB is actively pursuing goals that we had set, instead of, traditionally they've gone by the wayside. So it's very encouraging to see them moving along at a good clip. Thank you.
Thank you,
Natasha.
Thank you.
I agree. I totally agree. It's really nice to see people doing stuff.
Thanks, Natasha. Bye.
Thank you.
So no, I don't think we need to land on what we do, but if there's an agreement that Jason just ended up a tad bit too complicated and maybe financially unrealistic, that we make that commitment today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open. I mean, obviously I've put in, it's disappointing because I've put in a ton of hours. I wouldn't be human if I wasn't disappointed, but I'm definitely open to just discussing about it. It did become very complicated, and I can totally understand where town staff and administration are coming from with the concerns. So we'll defer to hear what you think.
I mean, I summarized our concerns in an email. We all met. I mean, I will tell you, we got that email and we were all freaking out. Like, there was just no way we could meet. Like, all the bullet points gave us anxiety. Financially speaking, and just personnel and time-wise, we're just not, we love the nest, don't get us wrong, we really do. Yeah. But it just feels like it's just not realistic. Like, we can't put off a tips grant for this, so we were kind of at Jason's beck and call for a month. There's just so many things in the works. That I guess I do feel I'm a little disappointed. I don't feel like he was as transparent when he came here as he could have been. It would have been really nice to have known this when he was physically here a couple months ago, so we could have planned accordingly. I felt a little taken back by what he outlined.
Yeah, and I mean, the lack of communication has been disappointing on his part too, so.
I know, I can only take the artist thing for so long where I'm like, just answer the email. I mean, Chris sent off some other items like this outdoor musical. I'm not sure for $20,000. And to put into context, we've already spent almost $70,000, leaving us with just a little over $100,000 left in this grant. And so we're not at a place where we can be adjusting funds. And so I'm not getting the feeling that Jason can do what's being asked of him with the $20,000. And then you may just want to consider pushing that money towards something else. But again, we could kind of summarize our concerns. I don't feel like I really need to recap all those, but
Yeah.
that's kind of how we feel as
You know, no, that was a good outline of everything and easily digestible. But I'm agreeing with it was a great idea and good initial steps. But like you said, Jesse, even just the back and forth between different meetings, it didn't seem like there was a lot happening. And so anyway,
Yeah, I totally
I
get
had
like
no problems
this
with
last
going to.
this final hour he's come up with that you got to pay for bolts, you got to give a forklift, you got to provide a pressure washer, we got to get like all this housing. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I wouldn't be if we did. I mean, whatever we do is going to be awesome. Like, it's going to be a huge improvement down there. So I'm super excited about whatever we do. We're going to do amazing things. It's going to look beautiful. I wouldn't be set on that one company that you did send the link. There's a few other companies that do the same thing, maybe better, that I'm aware of too. And that it would be a lot simpler.
that was just like one idea, like kicking, and we also are like open to whatever you decide.
The musical thing is awesome.
Yeah,
I like
let's
the
just
musical
brainstorm something, because my fear too is he's then going to come back and say like, well, I can just give you like a tiny 8x8 structure, and it's like, well, we're going to pay $20,000 for that because his personnel and equipment cost so much that he can't produce a large item.
Well, it would have been that by this point, it would have been nice to see a draft, like a vision. I have some kind of vision within the 6-month, deadline.
I'm not sure we're ever going to get that, because he kept saying to me like, I won't know until the moment. And I was like, you need to define it for our legal contract. Like, I need something, because our attorney is really worried that like, what if he comes and gives you a bench and says, pay me $20,000? I gave you a bench. Because
bench is $1,000.
A bench is only $1,000, Nathan.
So we're all in agreement then that we're gonna say ixnay.
Without the parameters that he was struggling to provide, she felt very concerned about us signing a contract, because he could then come back and say, you owe me that money because we didn't agree on parameters of a design.
Right.
And there was nothing that would stop us from having to pay him. So are you okay then? Again, I don't know. I know we haven't heard from everyone, but if assuming there's everyone's okay, then I could send Jason an email saying, thank you so much, but we just can't meet these parameters you've set. Sad face. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, you worked so hard on this.
Yeah, for me, it's Jesse's labor that has gone into this absolutely the most. And if even Jesse is feeling like we need to maybe move on to another solution, then who am I to say we don't need to?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open to it, because I totally understand it. It would be a huge amount of commitment going forwards too. Like the time dedication is only it's only just beginning too for what it would involve.
Yeah.
So.
And the photography thing sort of sealed it for me. I was like, well, I mean, it's a public piece of land. We're gonna take photos of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can always say we're just not going to move forward with constructing the nest for this project at this time. Maybe in a few years we'll be in a place where we can, and we're not up against a grant. I think there may be opportunities in that.
Yeah, and you might soften the blow by saying, the library was super excited about the potential of doing something like that in the future too.
So I was going to say, like, the PROSAB met this evening and discussed what you've outlined in this email. Fortunately, we don't feel we can meet the parameters you have set. Therefore, we will not be continuing with constructing this nest under this project. However, we would love to maintain communication for future opportunities. That sounds something to that effect. Does that sound good, Jesse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Future opportunity, and throw in that, a couple of years down the road.
Yeah.
So it's not like future opportunities like next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's we're just a small town. This is it's asking a lot of the staff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's why we were very concerned, and did discuss, like, could we make this happen? And kind of the feeling amongst, and there was a kind of a large group, was just there, that was just asking too much of us. We're just not, we don't have the capability and don't even have the equipment he wants.
Yeah.
So, but Jesse, I really do appreciate how hard you work towards this. I know it's hard, like the years of the, you've committed so long to this, and I'm bummed that this is kind of where it ends, but I want you to know we all truly value everything you've done this far.
We all tried to, so and gave it a good shot.
Yeah.
And there's whatever we're gonna do, it's gonna be a huge improvement down there. The musical things are so amazing. I've been to one of these musical parks too before, so yeah, I could see that working really well too.
Yeah. So I think we could talk more about what that looks like at a future meeting.
Yeah.
I had one thing off topic, if we're to that stage. It's not too far off topic, but I just wanted to let everybody know on the board that I was out in New Orleans last week, and there's a letter that went in about the Mississippi River that was quoting Nederland as saying that the rivers have rights, and it quoted the New Zealand thing too. So I just wanted to let everybody on the board know that, like,
you noticed. Cool.
Yeah. So
That's great.
Kind of neat. It was a quote. They were quoted
cool.
in the Daily Camera article on it. So
yeah, thanks, John. That is cool.
Setting the standards.
yeah, it's the same thing where I mean, not that we are that worried about the Mississippi, but basically they're bringing down all these barges and they're loading them up on the Mississippi so that they don't have to construct a port, and they don't have to get any permits, and they don't have to do anything. They just say it's mid-channel loading, and they went from 1 to like 5 massive barges. I mean, it's just like completely changed the ecosystem there. So
Yeah. I mean, are we all right with that agenda item just as it is? Otherwise, we'll move to just closing it up. The only other thing I had is just I'd like for January to have a list of what we've been trying to do the last few years is have a list of our achievements for the year, like annual achievements. So I'd like us to kind of put our brains together and think about what we've actually managed to achieve this year and put that into a kind of a readable list and think about our goals for the next year.
I see. Should we just send those to you or create a document? What's the best way? Or do you want to do that right now?
No, let's not do it right now. let's send that.
Okay. Just email over the achievements and they can be compiled.
Yeah, maybe we'll do we could do a Google Docs for that too.
no, I thought we were not allowed to do the Google Docs.
Yeah, really, you're not supposed to.
Oh.
For our attorney.
I think we just write emails, and then at the next meeting we can like talk. I mean, you could pull up all the emails you got, Jesse.
Yes.
Completely arbitrary.
Send it over to me then. Anything you can think of specifically that we've nailed down or that are, what your kind of goals and priorities are too. And I will just put them all into one document.
You can put them into Google Docs, but just with a view only category for the board, and then everyone can look at it, but they just can't edit it.
Okay.
Sunshine. It's just so
Sounds
complicated. Yeah.
Thanks for the clarity on it, though. It's good that we do the right thing there.
Just remember that one politician can meet with as many executives of as many corporations as they want without publicly noticing it.
Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah.
Happy
Corporations
holidays.
for people, my friends.
To wit, holidays. I'm having a little get together this Sunday. So long as we don't talk any town business at all, you're all welcome. Please reach out to me via email. Some of you have my number. Just super casual. People having a couple of snacks and drinks, and it's in the afternoon on Sunday. So if you're interested, reach out. Happy to have you all.
I apologize that I've been blowing balloons up. I got a lot of balloons to blow up, having a party tomorrow night for a 6-year-old.
I gotta be honest, I was really curious.
Yeah.
It's like
Rented out the community center for tomorrow evening.
Oh,
We're gonna dance
wow.
party, glow sticks.
Okay.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Sounds great.
That's so fun.
There you go. We're putting our money back into the recreation.
Thanks. I meet with them tomorrow. I know they appreciate it.
We're out on the East Coast through New Year's, so we're not into.
Otherwise, yeah.
I wondered, your environment is different. And I was like, I wonder where he is. Yeah. It's all about the background. Once the background changes, it's like, where are you? Yep. Cool. Well, I would say, Chris, obviously his last day is the 13th. Chris Pelletier, if you haven't had a chance, maybe shoot him an email. Significant person, he's been with us for 10 years. So taking us a long way, and he is moving though back east. That's where his family is from and his wife's family is from. They want to be there as their parents age.
Is Emmett staying on?
Emmett is staying. I actually met with Emmett this evening. Emmett is here. He plans to stay. That also gives Chris a reason to visit. So yeah, Emmett does not have any intentions of leaving.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
Oh, and pick up your popcorn if you haven't done it.
Thank you.
I haven't done it yet.
So much popcorn here. Like, please come get your popcorn. And if you are vegan, come get your vegan cookies. We have so much popcorn. We have boxes. So
awesome. I'm gonna come by tomorrow.
And if it goes into the new year, because you're gone, Eric, come get your popcorn in the new year. Still happen. I was looking today, I was like, this is not enough. We have not distributed enough popcorn today for me to feel good about this. So please come get it.
Thank you.
Stephanie, for that plug. I appreciate it.
All right, 9:42. Do we have a motion to call it good?
Yes, please.
I'll second your motion.
All right. I'll see you next year.
Thank you all. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, everyone.
See you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.